So I'm sitting here at the Port Authority bus station. If you know New York City, if you know, you know. You know, I'm getting ready to go to Cleveland for Abdullah Mason versus Albert Bell fight weekend. It should be a lot of fun, 4th of July. If you're out in Ohio, if you're out and about at the fights, if you see me, feel free to holler and say what's up to your boy BT and True School Sports. I love talking to the viewers of True School Sports when the opportunities present themselves. So definitely say what's up. But while I'm sitting here, you know, on the friendly confines of the Port Authority bus terminal, you know, because everybody thinks I'm flying these jets and planes and think I'm rich. Nah, man, we keep it humble. We keep it nice and just humble, you know, with Greyhound. Shout out to Greyhound. But nah, in all seriousness, I wanted to talk about this news in the heavyweight division. Big news. The IBF recently ordered Frank Sanchez to fight for the world title against Moses Itauma. Now, before I even get into that and what could happen and all that stuff, let me first establish that just because a sanctioning body and or organization orders a particular matchup, it doesn't mean that that fight automatically happens. It just means that that's what they want to happen. The two parties involved have a certain amount of time to negotiate a deal. If somebody decides they want to go in another direction, they go to the next available contender, and so on and so forth, right? That's how it goes, right? So, Frank Sanchez knocked out Richard Torres Jr. He earned his shot, and they've ordered him to fight the young heavyweight phenom Moses Itauma. Now, Moses Itauma, he's a guy that, you know, has a big fight coming up August 29th against Filip Hrgović. That's already signed. That's already sealed. That's already delivered. So we'll see if he goes through with that. You know, I think it's interesting because, you know, Moses, I do think at this age, I think Moses at his age, and I'm trying not to overrate him and put too much pressure on the kid, but Moses is a guy that I think could be Frank Sanchez right now. And you know, I think if he really wanted to, if Queensberry Promotions and Frank Warren believed in the kid, they could make this fight happen next, and he can go in there and become the IBF heavyweight champion of the world in his next fight. You know, we're in a new era now. Usyk has vacated the belts. Joshua, Fury, Wilder, all those guys are pretty much done, if not close to it. So we are now sorting out the next era of the heavyweight division. And I think Queensberry Promotions and Frank Warren and them, they're going to be tasked with a very interesting decision because, you know, I think they'll probably still go ahead with the Hrgović fight because they have Filip Hrgović under contract. He's with Queensberry, so the only way I feel like Hrgović doesn't fight Moses Itauma is if they pay Filip Hrgović and Keith Connolly so much money, just such disgustingly high amounts of money that Hrgović sits out and inevitably fights the winner, and then in intermediate time he could stay busy. But they have a decision to make, you know, and selfishly I'm hoping that they still fight Filip Hrgović on the original date of August 29th because I've already booked my stuff to go to the UK. You know, I will be in the UK for Moses Itauma versus Filip Hrgović, so I want to see the fight. I also want Filip Hrgović to get his big fight against Moses Itauma because I think, you know, I might be alone. I might be all alone in the dark, but he's one of the, you know, I'm giving him a big chance to beat Moses Itauma and take his heart right there in the UK. Obviously, he has to get to the first couple of rounds, but I give him a chance, you know. So yeah, if I was in a management position for Queensberry Promotions, I would take the fight because the way I look at it, if I was in a Moses Itauma management position, I would take the fight because Frank Sanchez and Filip Hrgović to me are right now on the same tier. They're on the same tier. They were actually supposed to fight each other at one point. You know, and if you're gonna fight guys that are on the same tier in and around the same level, then why not fight one of those guys for the world title? That's my objective opinion, you know, if I was like in a Moses Itauma management position. Now, Hrgović, while he's not a massive name, I think it's debatable. You guys can tell me in the comments. Maybe you could say he's a bigger name than Sanchez just because he's fought Dubois. He's got those links to sparring Klitschko and Wilder from back in the day. Now I don't got any money. He's got those links from sparring them back in the day, and he talks a little more, so he makes for a more interesting build-up. But you know, I think they're on the same level. I think they're on the same level of you know, name-wise, and I think right now you might even say that Frank Sanchez, his name is buzzing a bit more just because of the fact that, you know, he fought a hyped-up American Olympic medalist, undefeated prospect, a guy that was pegged as potentially the next great American heavyweight, and he put him in the dirt in 2 rounds. So anytime you can do that, that obviously helps your stock and things like that. So I think when you look at just the whole chessboard, you know, who Frank Sanchez is at this moment, where he's at in his career, the fact that this is for heavyweight title, I really do think that Queensberry Promotions should give it some strong consideration to take this fight. You know, of course, Keith Conley is a great manager. Philip Hergovich is one of the top contenders in the world, and you're gonna have to pay him handsomely. And you know, I'll tell you this: what I would suggest, I would like to see a 4-man tournament of sorts. This is in a perfect world. This is what I think should happen. I would like to see Itauma fight Frank Sanchez for the heavyweight title, because if you can fight Philip Hergovich without a title, you can fight Frank Sanchez for a title. They're around the same level. He's beatable, and you can become heavyweight champion next fight. You know, the way I look at it is like if Itauma isn't ready to fight Frank Sanchez, then how is he ready to fight Philip Hergovich? That's how I look at it. So he should go take the fight with Frank Sanchez for the IBF title, and then what they should do is they should put Philip Hergovich in a rematch with Daniel Dubois for the WBO title. And then the winner of these 2 fights can meet each other in a unification fight. I feel like that makes a lot more sense, because you can crown Itauma as the next heavyweight champion, his next fight, right? And then, you know, if Hergovich beats Dubois, which I think he can in a rematch, then that means the Itauma-Hergovich fight is bigger. And if Dubois repeats what he did against Hergovich and beats him again, then now you have a real, legitimate, blockbuster British heavyweight unification fight. Moses is in his early 20s. Dubois is in his mid, heading into his late 20s. So, you know, I think either way, I think if that scenario were to play itself out, that's the best situation for boxing. That's the best situation for all fighters involved. Everybody gets their shot at the title. Everyone gets their chance to be involved in a big fight. And whoever is meant to be in the biggest of fights will come out those 2 fights victorious, and that'll be the matchup that we get. So I don't think it's gonna play out that way. I'm thinking out loud here, and I'm just talking about the news that the IBF has in fact ordered you know, Itauma to fight Frank Sanchez. So make that what you will. Leave the comments down below. About to get on the road, so make sure you guys stay tuned for all the content and just keep rocking with True School. Shout out to everybody in New York that showed a lot of love at the fights and around town, you know, because it was weird, you know. I was even walking around, because I did a lot of walking in New York, you know, Times Square, Brooklyn, everywhere. People were saying, "What's up, True School? What's up, BT?" So shout out to everybody in New York, man, and I look forward to seeing everybody in Ohio and making this a really successful fight week. So yeah, give me your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.